Hey guys, Future Low here. This I filmed on a totally different day than the rest of the entire video. I just realized I did not film an intro for this video at all. And I also wanted to include that I am doing a giveaway of this beautiful palette right here. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Norvina palette. This is the Volume 3 mini. I have a whole little mini video explaining the entire giveaway. I will link it right. I think it goes right here. I don't know. It's somewhere. And I will link it down in the description box below. So to enter this contest, first you have to subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and like the giveaway video. Comment your Instagram handle so I have a way to get in contact with you. And then head over to Instagram and follow me there. And I will also provide my Instagram name. It's right here somewhere. And I'll provide a link to that down below too. So may the odds be ever in your favor. And enjoy today's video. What's up guys, it's Lo, Beauty Demon here, and I'm back with another true crime story for you guys. Today's tale is actually going to be taking place in Indiana, and actually it ends in a city called Greenfield, Indiana. What's interesting is that I actually have family in Greenfield, Indiana, so when I started reading this, it really sparked my interest, and it made me have some kind of weird personal connection with it. I don't know. We're gonna get into today's story. My hair is very faded. I will be touching it up soon though. So this story is actually called the Feminine Bluebeard, and I didn't know what that was, so I had to look that up. And a Bluebeard is a man who kills his wife or kills like multiple wives for whatever reason. So spoiler alert, our protagonist and our antagonist killed multiple husbands. Also, I already have my foundation on because honestly my skin is a freaking mess and I just didn't feel comfortable presenting myself to you guys without covering up all of the spots that are on my face. Our story takes place in the 1920s, which I just love the 1920s, by the way. The jazz age, flappers. I mean, Prohibition isn't something that I love, but the whole story aspect of it's cool. You also had silent movies and the invention of a lot of modern appliances like air conditioners, washer and dryers, dishwashers. This also created the advent of what we would now call the teenager. Essentially, it's really just a marketing tool because now they had a lot of free time. And also, because of Prohibition, we saw a huge rise in organized crime. Now, with the rise of all of this also came the sensationalization of criminals. So specifically Bonnie and Clyde, you had Al Capone, you had Bonnie and Clyde. Did I already say that? Also, if you've ever seen the Broadway musical or the movie Chicago, you can see that female criminals are always way more sensationalized, just like how they are nowadays. Because for some reason, people think that women can't be criminals and be capable of heinous crimes. So the murderess that we are going to be talking about today is a woman named Clara Green, or Clara Gibson, or Clara Carl, depending on if she was married and who she was married to. Now, I always like to cite my sources. So a lot of what I found, I found a couple blogs that kind of just gave a basic outline of everything. And then I found archives of articles through local Indiana papers. So actually really old archives from, I don't remember the county. I want to say it was Monroe County. That would make sense. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you're in Indiana and you know, or I could just post the link. Let me tell you, by the way, journalists wrote a lot different back in the day. They were just super factual, straight to the point. They were this happened, this happened, this happened. None of this crazy weird stuff that we see in media nowadays. I also found a couple things from Ancestrydna. I do have a membership because I totally sent them my DNA sample. I don't know, it just seemed like a fun thing to do at the time. So Clara was born in May of 1877. We're going back. She was born in New Straitsville, Ohio. She had an 8th grade education. She would later go on to become a writer. So I guess, hey, you don't have to finish school to follow your dreams. Wait, no, stay in school. In 1908, she actually married her childhood sweetheart. This was husband number 1, a Mr. Robert Gibson. They were married in Kentucky. I have no idea how they got all the way to Kentucky to get married, but here we are. And they got married on March 14th. Robert, he was a teacher. He actually graduated from university, which amazing, in the early 1900s, and he actually even became a superintendent of a schools district right before his death. So a few years into their marriage, probably because they were tired of being poor, they decided to travel the country. So they would travel from town to town. They would learn a little bit of history about the town, and then they would write a history book about the town, and they would try to sell it to the locals. I mean, it sounds like a cute idea and stuff, but I mean, locals already know their own local history, and they literally just spent like maybe a month regurgitating it to you. I'm not really sure that they want to buy a book about it, although that would be like a good thing for local schools. But the hustle really, it didn't pay off, and they ended up going back to Indiana, settling in Greenfield. Clara began writing for the local paper, and it was here when Robert actually became a teacher and he became superintendent. In 1920, however, Robert became very sick, like mysteriously ill. He fell ill quickly, and shortly after he died. It was described that he died at midnight from an attack of influenza, which what's an attack of influenza? He also died on March 18th, which was 4 days after their 12-year anniversary, because he died in 1920 and they were married in 19... So that's pretty rough, you know. I mean, Clara, she's heartbroken, right? She's got to be, you know, distraught. Clara was also the sole beneficiary of his life insurance policy, and she received a payout of $3,000. This sounds familiar. Heartbroken over the death of her dear husband, Robert, Clara met her second husband, Frank Carl. She met him shortly after, and they married, like just a couple months after her beloved Robert passed. Some would actually whisper that she met him shortly before, and she heard that he was very rich. Soon after, Clara found that was not the case. He was not rich at all. In fact, he was very broke. The only thing that he had of any value to him was some property that he owned that was worth about $1,500, which in the 20s, that is a lot of money. I mean, even now I would take that, not gonna lie. The relationship was pretty dramatic from accounts as well. Clara always wanted money. She wanted a particular lifestyle, and in an attempt to appease what she wanted, Frank actually suggested selling his property that he owned and purchasing a pool hall. I guess it would be popular in the 20s, and insisting that they would travel. Because of this, Clara and Frank did actually separate for a small period of time while discussing the possibility of divorce. While discussing the possibility of divorcing Frank, she actually had a conversation with a Miss Lizzie Maynard. Lizzie asked on what grounds she actually wanted to divorce Frank. She replied, "If the law didn't provide a way, there will always be some way." What? Frank did actually convince Clara to take him back. I'm not totally sure how. Oh, yes, I am. Frank convinced Clara to take him back and to let him also move his father in as well, Alfonso. How did Frank convince her to not only let her back in, but also let his dad in too? Frank made Clara the sole beneficiary of his life insurance policy.
I'm beginning to see a pattern here that I'm not so sure if I like.
Soon after Alfonso moved in, he became very sick and he died. Shocker, right? Frank's brother, his name is Herman Frankenhermann. That's adorable. He was actually pretty shocked because he said right before his dad moved in, he was actually really healthy. So it was like, what happened here? Apparently got that same kind of flu that Robert caught. And sadly, 2 months after the death of his father, Frank would also die. Clara would actually claim that it was cirrhosis of the liver, implying that he was like an alcoholic. Okay, Clara. Not long after his passing, Clara actually took his body to Kansas City, Kansas, not Kansas City, Missouri. That's where he was from. Kansas City. So she took the bodies back to be buried there. There she met up with Herman, you know, and instead of grieving the loss of their two family members, Clara immediately wanted to discuss this bit of property that Alfonso owned and it actually left and willed to his son-in-law. Their, her husband's sister's husband. The reason Clara wanted to discuss this was she thought she had every right to this property. She married Frank. That was hers. She was taking care of Alfonso. She also mentioned needing to contact the insurance company immediately. So there were a lot of reasons to be side-eyeing Clara, like, from the get-go. Actually, this wasn't even the get-go, though. This was, like, a while later. This is, like, the second go? Herman did say, though, that when they had, his funeral, Frank's funeral, not Herman's own funeral. When they had Frank's funeral, Clara was upset. She did act all the parts of the grieving widow. But, people were starting to suspect her. She'd had 2 husbands die very quickly, and one she married extremely quick after her first husband died. People were like, no. And actually, Clara was quickly arrested on suspicion of murder. And when police arrived, they said she was actually in the process of selling off all of her belongings and her home. Police said it definitely looked like she was trying to get out of their community as soon as possible. Very quickly, the bodies of Frank and Alfonso were exhumed. Their vital organs were sent back to Indiana. Not their whole bodies. And the chemist that actually looked at the organs actually discovered that there was a ton of arsenic inside of their intestines. So the trial was actually pretty high profile and talked about in Indiana. Kind of like, once again, I make the reference, kind of like Chicago, but in a very flat farmland. Although Chicago and Indiana are not that far from each other. There were several key witnesses in this case, including Frank's brother Herman and that little chatty Cathy, Lizzie Maynard. Actually, we like Lizzie. Lizzie did the work. Also, we had the testimony of a drugstore clerk whose name was Rhonda Lower. I don't know if that's how you say her name. And her neighbors, Bessie Curry and her daughter Thelma. Bessie and Thelma, that's such a cute mom and daughter name, and their last name Curry. I love it. Rhonda, the store clerk, she actually testified that Clara came into the store shortly before Alfonso's death and purchased large quantities of, you guessed it, arsenic. She said she was buying it to kill a cat that was killing her chickens, and when I read that, I was like, you're gonna kill a cat with arsenic? You are a monster. You're a monster. Maybe that's just a farm thing. I don't know. I thought you would maybe keep the cat to kill rats. Put it in the barn or something. Now, Rhonda did say she didn't really remember the exact amount that she purchased or what the cost of it was, but that it was definitely more than 5 cents worth, which I was like, is that a lot? Is that... I don't know. I don't know what the going rate for arsenic is now, so I definitely don't know what the going rate for arsenic was in the 1920s. It sounds like it's a shocking amount. Also, neighbors Bessie and Thelma, the Currys, they had a couple bits of interesting information as well. They said that Clara and Frank actually like to throw beer and wine parties. I'm gonna call parties beer and wine parties from now on. That's literally how they referenced it, and it's so cute. They were over for one of these parties, mom and daughter, Bessie and Thelma, partying together. And so anyway, they were at one of these parties, and Frank, all of a sudden, he gasped, his mouth filled with water, and then he died. Which I had not actually ever heard of that being associated with arsenic poisoning. Is that a thing? Do your lungs fill up with water when you get arsenic poisoning? But what do I know? I don't poison people and I'm not a chemist. The Currys also said that Alfonso, he had a bit of a sweet tooth, and Clara knew that. She would actually make him special little candies, and only he was allowed to eat them. Even Clara herself wouldn't eat these candies. That's a little suspicious. Who's gonna make candies and not even eat one of them? Hello? And then during the trial, Clara's first husband, Robert, he was also exhumed. And what do you think they found in him? If you guessed arsenic, you are right. During the trial, Herman and Clara actually did have a conversation right out in the middle of the courtroom floor, in between sessions or whatever. They chatted a little bit, as family does when they're catching up with one another. She was introduced to a couple other family members that she had never met before. Then she was escorted away. Even the papers were like, this is kind of weird. What's going on? Papers also, loving to sensationalize everything, reported that Clara Clara was actually having an intimate relationship with a local attorney named Ed Glasscock. And that's a name. That last name is really unfortunate, but he's pretty lucky that she got arrested, honestly, because he could have been husband number 3. So it was during, this time that she got her little nickname, the Feminine Bluebeard, which, like I said, I didn't get it all because I was like, is that a pirate? Like I said, Merriam-Webster, actually, the dictionary says, let me look it up. Bluebeard is a man who marries and kills one wife after another. So, yeah, we kind of have established she probably would have just killed another husband. It probably would have been Ed Glasscock. Clara was the last to take the stand. She took the stand in her defense, and it literally didn't help her at all. After a 7-day trial, she was found guilty on June 4th, 1922. Clara was sentenced to life in prison. She killed 2 husbands. That's legit. But that's not actually where the story ends, as you can tell, because I still have my lipstick and my mascara to put on. I am actually going to pause and just go put on my lipstick and my mascara, because it's really hard to talk and do all that at the same time. Okay, back. I just had to get, all that on. And then I actually touched my face with my mascara wand, so I had to redo part of my makeup. It was super exciting. So yes, Clara was sentenced to life in prison. In October of 1925, however, Clara decided, and she escaped from prison. She actually made her way out via climbing on top of a chicken coop. She hid in there and waited until there weren't any guards, and then she climbed on top of it and then climbed over the fence when nobody was looking. What? So she was on the run from October 3rd to October 12th. She was literally on the run for 11 days, over a week. She actually did describe being super paranoid about being recaptured the entire time, fearing that every light she saw was a police car. Anyone she ever heard was somebody looking for her. She also talked about how she very, very narrowly escaped being recaptured by 2 police officers by hiding in a bush and praying to God. And then they just walked away. Eventually, Clara was recaptured, and she actually said, I guess my capture is for the best. I'm a murderer. In 1937, however, Clara, along with 2 other lifers, was paroled. She walked free. She was 54, and she was a free woman ready to mingle. I don't know if she dated. I don't know if she got married ever again or anything. Really, there isn't much known about her afterwards. The only things that I could find were the few things that I found on Ancestry.DNA, which some of them were from census. One was from a 1940s census stating that she still lived in the area. 2 other ones were announcements of hospital dischargement, which I didn't know that you announced that people were being discharged from the hospital. I kind of feel like that's a HIPAA violation or something like that. I don't know about that. These announcements were made in 1964 and then again in 1968. In 1968, she would have been 91. That's friggin' old. I couldn't find an obituary or anything else past that, but I'm going to assume she's laid to rest somewhere in Indiana. There's a lot of cemeteries in Indiana. And that is the story of Clara Green Gibson Carl. That's a mouthful. The Feminine Bluebeard. I kind of expected her to have a beard at first. When I first saw the name Feminine Bluebeard, I assumed it was a pirate story, that she was in maybe an early carnival sideshow back in the day, or something, or maybe dressed as a pirate when she killed people. I'd never heard the term Bluebeard before. We learn something new every day, right? All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching today. I really do love making these videos for you and all the research that goes into them. I love doing that kind of stuff. So if you also like all of these fun videos, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, I will say, follow me on Instagram at The Beauty Demon or on Twitter at Low Beauty Demon. I will leave little links below, and I will also link everything that I use on my face down below as well. All right, guys, I will see you next time. Please remember to be safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. Bye, guys.